Hi friends, I'm Misty Purcell and I am a cross-stitch designer and a fabric dyer, and my business is called Luminous Fiber Arts. I'm here today to talk to you about some new designs I've released, some projects that I've been working on, some things I've finished, retail therapy I've been hitting pretty hard, so I'll share a little bit of that with you. If this is your first time here, welcome, and if you've been here before, you'll notice that the hutch is pretty much empty. I'm like way behind in terms of changing out my hutch for the seasons. I meant to get summer summer on here, I don't know, at least before Memorial Day, and it didn't happen. So, and some of my models are on tour at the moment, so it's just kind of, I'll get around to it. Next video, this will for sure have changed over. I won't leave it that long. So how have you been? I hope you've been well. I've been doing lots of stitching and relaxing as much as possible and winding down from a very, very busy school year and just trying to recover. So I've been taking it as easy as I can. So let's talk about my new releases to start with. I have 3 new releases and I just love them, and I hope you will too. So let's start with Counting is Hard, because it is. So I designed this. Well, let me tell you the details and then I'll tell you about the design. This is stitched on 32 count linen in the colorway Sparrow, which is a color I dye, and all the flosses are DMC. There is a little bit of back stitching and long stitching here. The thread going to the needle, the bobbin is stitched with back stitching or long stitches over it, and then there are some long stitches in the pins. These can all be done on Aida if you stitch on Aida, so don't be concerned about that. So the story behind this design is that one morning last summer, I always stitch in the mornings, but I got on Instagram and I was talking with someone, I think, who'd stitched gathering berries, and they'd said something about having to fudge maybe the border. And you know, I know what that's like to have counting problems, because I count incorrectly all the time, or I think I know what the chart says. I can't even follow my own pattern sometimes and screw it up. So I was commiserating with the person who'd had to fudge. And then I went back to working on my stitching, and then I noticed I had made a counting mistake myself. And then I was just like, man, counting is hard. And then I thought, you know, that should be a design. And then I was like, has anyone designed that? And I didn't think anyone had. So I wrote it down, and then kind of immediately in my mind, I could see that there would be a bird stitching and kind of making a mistake, and there would be some numbers plus the words counting is hard. So the general concept for the design came really quickly to me, you know, just in an hour or less. And then it was kind of tweaking, you know, what motifs would be in here, what's the spacing. I had trouble deciding where the seam ripper would go, but I was talking with a couple people about it, my friend and my boyfriend, about the design and their impressions, and my boyfriend was saying the bird should be like sweating and the hard needed to be underlined, and I was like, well, I don't really want to underline it, and I couldn't make the bird sweat and look good, but I decided the way I would underline it was to put the seam ripper underneath it, just to emphasize the difficulty level of counting. So I just love this piece so much. I think it's cute and funny and true. This also was finished. This is the framed finish, and I also finished it as a drum, but I don't have the drum finish because, as I said earlier, many of my models are on tour at the moment doing their job. I can show you a picture. I'll insert it too, but on the back of the pattern, you can see the picture of the drum. So this drum was finished by Faye Rigsby. She did a beautiful job. So my dream when I stitched this was that it would be a drum, but I felt like I had to do the framed version as well because I wanted people to be able to see the words really well to get the concept. So that's why there's 2 models. So the drum model was stitched by one of my model stitchers, Paige Reynolds. So thank you so much, Paige. You did a beautiful job. And that's what's here. And then Faye finished that and made the strawberry on top. It's just wonderful. And this was stitched also, same linen, same count, same DMC threads. So it's all DMC, very easy, quick stitch, fun, be a great gift for someone if you wanted to give it to a friend. It'd be a nice addition if you have like a stitching area or a stitching room. I think it'd be awesome there on a display. I'm gonna put it with, I think, some pin cushions and spools of thread, kind of like what you see on the back here. I mean, not displayed exactly like that, but something like that I think is how I'll display it. I think I'm gonna have like a stitching area, like stitching designs area in my summer display. Probably not on the hutch, but I'll see how much room I have once I get more of my stuff out. So that's Counting is Hard. And next, let's talk about Midsummer Song. I'll show it to you and tell you about it, and then tell you the story behind it. I don't know what you can see. Let me see if I can get a little closer here. Okay, so first I'll tell you information about the design. It is stitched on 40 count Sparrow, again dyed by me, using a mix of over-dyed flosses and DMC. You do not have to stitch this on 40 count. You don't have to stitch it on linen. You can stitch it on whatever you want. I just stitched it on 40 count because that's what I wanted to do. Thought it would look kind of delicate, which I think it does. So 1 strand of floss over 2 fabric threads. I always include a DMC conversion in my charts in case you prefer to do all DMC. So the story behind this design, which I'm just so happy with, by the way, I love this so much. I'm super happy with these 3 new releases. So the story is that I came across this rhyme in 2020. It was probably like January. In the mornings before, I'm gonna put this down, I can hold up in a minute. In the mornings before class, back when we were in person, I would go and sit in this empty area of one of the buildings that I taught in. And every morning I would do like creative prompts and things. And so anyway, I came across this rhyme and I thought, I like birds, I like rhymes. I think this is a great idea for a design. And I spent weeks like sketching ideas of like how I would write out the like font, like what it would look like in terms of the style, and maybe where I thought the lines would break between the rhyme, and thinking about like what motif should be in it. And I thought at first that I would do like an urn with flowers from each month, you know, April, May, June, you know, all of that. So like, since it's mentioning those months, I thought I would do flowers that represented each one. And so I had this urn idea with the flowers, and I was sketching that out in my sketch pad. And then I sat down to actually draw it in my cross stitch software. I made the font too big. The thing was huge. I had to cut it down. I probably honestly went and cut it down and like resized the font about 5 or 6 times between start and finish because I just drew it too big. And then I'll see if I have some pictures, I'll insert them so you can see kind of the progress. This was like a good idea that looked terrible. And then it finally got better. So I had the urn with the flowers. It was okay. I was trying to draw a cuckoo. It looked all right, but it was not exciting. And I felt like I had a really good idea that wasn't going anywhere. So I put it aside, and then I tried changing the cuckoo and changing the flowers and messing with the font. Still wasn't working, but I didn't want to let it go. So I decided to just kind of keep coming back to it every so often. And I got to the point, which happens with some designs, where I realized that I was just going to have to try taking everything out except for what I thought was like the absolute most important thing, which was pretty much the words and the font style. And I liked the ideas of like birds and flowers, but I had to take everything out. So I just like started over from scratch pretty much, except that I had the font there. And I had been thinking since I had gone to market last year that I really wanted to design a sampler. And so I thought, well, why don't I try to make this a sampler? Like I'll think about sampler motifs that I like, and I'll look at samplers a little bit, but I don't want to be super influenced. I just want it to be kind of generally inspired by samplers. So that's what I did. And I started thinking about like what motifs would I like to include. And what did I like about summer? And I was like, well, strawberries have to be in the design because I love strawberries in June. And so I kind of started with the strawberries and the birds. These trees actually were in a Christmas design, a stocking design I had tried to create that wasn't going anywhere, and so I stole them and like fixed them up a little bit and put them in here. I keep a file of star designs, so I use some of the ones that have been in my file, and I made new stars as well. So just like ones that sometimes I just mess around and try to like see how many variations on stars I can make, and that's what I do. I just keep a file of them for when I need them. I love how the berries turned out, by the way. I think they're really pretty. So I had to have the strawberry plant. I knew that the bird needed to be singing because it's saying the cuckoo comes in April and stays the month of May, sings a song at midsummer, and goes away. So I knew I had to have a bird singing. I didn't worry too much about these birds looking specifically like cuckoo birds. I just wanted them to look like general birds. Because when I tried to make them look like a really specifically cuckoo, it just wasn't working. I've got some flowers that, you know, to me look like forget-me-nots. I really had fun designing those. And so I thought a lot about like, where should the line breaks happen? I took a lot of poetry classes in college, and I was trying to think of what would make sense. So I tried to do that into like here and stays. So to make the word stays kind of last, like it's staying, I put a break and then I put some stars to kind of draw it out. I wanted it to be whimsical. So, you know, I've got letters that are kind of going up and down, and the sings a song. It's kind of sing-songy. And I had underlined some of them with different motifs, and some of the letters are actually a slightly different shade. I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but like here you can see that CO is a little bit lighter. So I just played around a little bit with that. I decided I wanted a pink house. So that was a motif I chose. This actually was a flower that I'd had originally in the urn, and I pulled it out of the urn and used it here. Got a couple ladybugs. There's one there, and then one there on top of the strawberry plant. This bee is probably my favorite thing in the whole design. I really wanted there to be a bee. The wings were really hard to figure out how to do, but I love how they turned out. They're so pretty and delicate. And then we've got a nice berry bowl here. So that's the story. And then I put 2021, I finished this, I think it was January 1st of this year. So I put the date 2021. It does come with numbers 0 through 9 so that you can put the year on. You could think about, if your initials are in here, changing the colors of, you know, a couple of the letters or 3 of the letters. If you want to do first, middle, and last, you could do that to personalize it, or you could add your own. You could pull from here and add your own initials somewhere. I tried to go with a border that was interesting but not hard. So the top and bottom are the same, and then left and right are the same. And I just think this is so beautiful, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I really love the colors. The butterfly is super pretty. So there's some back stitching and long stitching in this design as well. There is one place on the bee wing, and I mentioned this in the chart, where I did split on Ada, where you'd have to actually split the stitch on one side and the other side of the bee wing, but you could also just slightly alter your bee wing if you didn't want to do that. So this is Midsummer Song. And lastly, we have Farm. So this design is stitched on 32 count vintage country mocha linen by Zweigart. And if you're not familiar with vintage country mocha, it's printed on one side and solid on the other. I used the printed side. It's printed to look like it's hand dyed. This uses a mix of over dyed flosses and DMC. Let me get it close and I'll kind of scan it across the screen for you. I'm trying to see if you can see it. Okay. So this design is inspired by goats, really. I grew up on a goat farm. We had Nubian goats, so there are Nubians here on top. And my mom still has goats. I knew if I didn't design something with goats pretty soon, my mother was gonna maybe disown me. And I'd been wanting to do something with goats. There aren't many goat designs out there. I meant to like just type in the keyword goat in Hoffman and see like what came up, but I forgot to. So someone let me know if you look it up, how many goat patterns are on Hoffman's website. I'm guessing it's very few. Of course, you can't control how Hoffman categorizes things, so like, would they call this goat in their catalog? I don't know. But really, this design is about goats and farms. So I, once again, this was a pre-class design where I was sitting there one day waiting for class to start in the hall, and I got the idea to write the word farm and put goats kind of climbing all over the word. And then I decided I needed some more animals, so I started drawing more. And then I lost my sketch and I couldn't find it anywhere, so I re-sketched it. I pretty much remembered it, and then I eventually did find it again. So I added some other animals in. So we've got this dog and cat that are playing. We actually had a dog that got along with cats. I added some pigs because I needed something like cute and little in the design. Of course, had to have some chickens. The rooster is crowing. There's a sheep chilling with a horse. And you got some more chickens. Well, a hen and chicks. And it's a sunny morning on the farm. So this is really just a tribute to, I guess, my childhood, my family, and to people who farm. At one point, I was gonna cut off this part and that part and just make it smaller because I thought maybe no one would want to stitch this much. But it just didn't look as good to me. So I went with, I gotta do the whole thing. And if no one wants to stitch as much, oh well, I'm doing it. So I did, I stitched it. And I love how it turned out. I think it's really fun and cute and playful. I love animals, and I've spent a lot of time around animals growing up. So I just felt like it was kind of a tribute to, like I said, my childhood and animals and my appreciation for them, and for farmers who work very hard. I know how hard they work, and that is why I'm not one. I'm just grateful to them for being there. Okay, so I think that's all about the 3 designs that I wanted to say. If I forget something or you have a question, you can ask in the comments. And I'd like to do a giveaway of the new charts. So I will give away 1 copy of Counting is Hard. So Counting is Hard is a leaflet. And then I've got booklets. So Midsummer Song is a multi-page booklet, as is Farm. So 1 copy of each. You can enter to win any of them, but you'll only be eligible to actually win one when I draw the names. I'll do a random comment picker. Please say the word counting, farm, or song. Tell me what you're stitching. And the giveaway will be ending on June 14th. So that's a week from today. So that'll be the last day you can enter. Please don't mention giveaway. Please be 18 or older. And you need to comment on this video to be eligible for the giveaway. These charts are available from a variety of needlework shops. You can contact your shop if they don't have them, and they can get them for you. They're also available in my shop, which is luminousfiberarts.com. The charts are there. Some supplies to stitch them are there. I'm not sure exactly what's left in stock. I'm still in the process of packing orders. But I did have some fabric and floss and some kits at the time that I last checked. So please check it out if you're interested. And I'm gonna just take a break to put some things away, and then I'll come back and talk about other things I've been working on. So I am so excited to be doing my first mystery stitch along. And it is for Christmas in July. I've been hinting at it a little bit on and off this year. So starting July 1st and running through the end of July will be the mystery stitch along. The clues will all be out well before the end of July. but the stitch along runs in July. So let me tell you a little bit about it. It is a 3-part mystery, so there'll be 3 release dates. Mid-June, I will have the supplies available and you can actually pay for the pattern. It's just one purchase, and then it'll be a PDF. Because it's a mystery, it's the simplest way for me to do that is for the stitch along to have it as a PDF. So if you're not a PDF person, hang tight. After that, I'll start selling printed patterns, but for the month of July during the stitch along, I'm just going to do PDF version of the pattern, so that way you can get updates. So the first clue, you can pay for the pattern mid-June. You can buy it anytime after that as well, but it starts being available mid-June. I'll tell you that I'll announce the date in my newsletter, and then also on social media. I might do another video. We'll see how my life goes. Certainly I'll show it completed at some point, but I don't want to like spoil the surprise of the stitch along. So it's going to be 3 little rectangles, 3 little scenes that can be stitched as stacked vertically, how I stitch them. You could think about stitching them separately as little ornaments, which would be super cute, and please someone do that and show me because I think it'd be awesome. You could also, if you wanted to mess around with rearranging it, you could stitch it horizontally. I'm not going to do that in the chart. It's just going to be the vertical option. But if you want to, you could do that. It wouldn't be that hard. You would just stitch 1 rectangle, skip 2 squares on your fabric, next rectangle, etc. Okay, so the kits, which will be the fabric and the floss, it's a mix of over-dyed floss and DMC, and it's my hand-dyed fabric called Opulence. That will be available then mid-June. So you might like to sign up for my newsletter. I always link that in the video, so that way you'll get the first notification about it being available. I'll have as many kits as I can, but it could sell out. So if you are concerned about that, but I'll have it available. I did it on linen. You don't have to do it on linen. I did it on 32 count. You don't have to do it on 32 count. I'll have some other counts available. Does require DMC. It's not included in the kit. It'll just be the over-dyed flosses, but you'll have that list available right away. When you'll buy it, the pattern, you'll have the little borders. You can start stitching them right away, and then Jingle, the first rectangular scene, becomes available July 1st. So you can start doing the borders before July 1st if you want, or you can start them in July. It doesn't matter. I'm thinking of doing some kind of prize, so I'll get back to you on that. Maybe if for stitching and finishing it in the month or something like that. I'll think about it. See if I can think of a good way to do that. If I can't, if it's too complicated, I won't. I'm gonna give you a little tiny peek, but not very much because it's supposed to be a mystery. Somebody's there. Okay, so there's like some back stitching that can be done on Ada. Jingle, Jolly, Joy are all back stitched, the words. And there's a little bit of other back stitching, but it's not heavily back stitched. 32 count linen. Any count linen's fine though. It doesn't have to be linen. So I'll have Ada, I'll have Lugana, it doesn't matter. If you want to use something else, other things that are similar, maybe like Picture This Plus Relic. This fabric is kind of a yellowish color. I think you could do it on more neutral colors too, just you want your white to be able to show up. So look for more information coming soon, but I'm like so excited. It's so cute. I think you're gonna love it. I think it'll be like just a super sweet thing that you can stitch to display in your home, to give a child or a grandchild as a gift, to give yourself as a gift. I mean, I'm gifting it to me. It was definitely so fun to design, and it was just, I was doing some creative prompts, and the prompts for the week, I don't want to tell you what they are because it kind of gives it away, but the prompts for that 1 week, 3 of them were just like, I knew I wanted to do one of them, and I was like, well, I bet I could just do 3 designs that are all kind of related, and that's how it happened. If you like this, I hope you do. But I really hope you do, because I've been working on some other ones, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to do them as mysteries, But if you enjoy this and you enjoy this style, I'm working on more that are seasonal, that are in the same style. So let me know. Obviously you don't know yet, but when you do know, let me know. Okay, if I forgot something, I've already recorded this once and then I thought it was like too incoherent, so I recorded it again. So I might have forgotten something. Hopefully it's not too confusing, but find out via my newsletter, find out via social media, but the newsletter will be the first place that I announce everything. So that'll be the best way to get news first. Okay, so part 2. I'm experimenting with not overloading my brain, because what happens is I get a pile full of stuff here, and even though I make notes, my brain is trying so hard to keep track of everything, it just kind of loses its mind. So I'm doing like a set, and then I'm stopping and putting it away before I think about the next set. I'm trying to compartmentalize, I guess is what I'm saying, in the hopes that I just am more coherent. I'm certainly feeling more coherent being on vacation. Okay, so first up, let me show you a fully finished object, and I don't remember what colors I used, so I'm just gonna see if I wrote it down. Okay, it looks like no. I put it on Instagram, so I guess you could look there if you are on Instagram, but I changed the colors. I think this was Hickory Sticks, Carrie Berry maybe? The classic color works. Anyway, this was from Heart in Hand, Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher last spring. It was in that spring issue, so 2020. I fell in love with this, and so after market, I started stitching it. This is 40 count Sparrow, again, dyed by me. It's one of my favorite fabric colors, so you'll see it a lot in my stuff. I finished it last year quickly, and then I wasn't sure quite how I wanted to finish it, so I let it sit for a year. And now I have the mental space to confront it and think about it, and so I pulled a pink fabric in my stash. I use the same on the back. And I admit, when I sat down to finish this, I just thought, I don't have the energy, and this is hard. and I wanted it to go well, and I was so caught up in that, but I wanted to try this herringbone thing that I've seen like Helen do and other people do. And the thing about me is I used to do crazy quilting a little bit, and I know from that experience that I don't do very well with kind of freehand embroidery that's not marked. And that's pretty much what you're doing here. So Helen has like good tips for, you know, using the fabric, but when you're using 40 count, you can't really see that well without like magnification, you know, I don't know, to do this kind of stitching compared to like cross stitching, I thought. But definitely like where she's showing it on Ada or on a lower count, I think that would work really well. So I just kind of had to eyeball it as best I could. I mean, I could use the lines in the fabric to try to line this up, and I think it turned out fine. But I had some anxiety and I wanted to try this finish, and I was like, all right, are you trying to learn here? Yes. Okay, so you need to let go of it being perfect. The point is to learn, and it's fine. So I had to talk some sense into myself. It made me think a lot about perfectionism. Well, let me finish telling you about this. I'll tell you about perfectionism. So I had some vintage mother of pearl buttons. This is Flosh. My mom went to an estate sale in Michigan. She lives in Michigan. There was this huge estate sale from months ago, like multiple dates over like multiple months. It was so big that they had to do it that way because there was so much stuff, and they would have so many people that they couldn't fit everything in. So in phase 1 or something of the sale, this person was like, well, they were hobbyists. They probably did 4-H. She was a crafter. She had multiple sewing machines, including a couple featherweights, which I kind of wanted my mom to check out for me, but I figured like as crazy busy as that estate sale would probably be, that they wouldn't be there, and I didn't want to like add pressure to her life by being like, you have to get there at the beginning of the sale to get me a featherweight. So I just was like, I'm kind of interested, but you know, whatever. Anyway, at the estate sale, she got some Flosh in some different colors, and I decided to use that because it went really well, and that way it'd stick out a bit more. My herringbone turned out fine. Helen's tutorial is great. I watched it and then I just did it. And I grabbed these buttons because I wanted to use them. This is Brick House Mini Pom Pom Trim from Lady Creates. So perfectionism, I was having some thoughts about perfectionism. My thoughts are these, and I'd be interested to hear if you have thoughts as well. We all want to do things perfectly, and we often talk about it's not perfect, but. And the thing is, we all know that we aren't perfect. So I don't know sometimes why I personally expect myself to be perfect if I can't be and no one is. And why do I think the things that I make should be perfect? I mean, I want them to be really good and as good as I can make them. But why am I expecting perfection if I'm not perfect and if no one is? Like, what is that about? Furthermore, as I thought it over some more, I'm like, why is it that it's charming? These imperfections are charming in old samplers done by girls and in old quilts. If you look at an old quilt and a block is turned the wrong way, you just think it's sweet, right? You think it's charming. My phone's trying to notify me of something. You think it's nice. You like it. You're not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that they turned that block the wrong way. You know? Or if like a girl is stitching a sampler and, you know, she messes up something, no one is like sitting there judging her, right? I mean, you might judge sometimes we joke about like the backsides of things, but really you're not like judging someone a couple 100 years ago or 100 years ago or 50 years ago for not doing something perfectly. So why is that okay? But you in the current time, it's not okay for you to screw up or for me to screw up. Like, why am I not okay with that? Why am I not okay with my quilt blocks not being square? Shouldn't that be charming? So is it because it's old and that makes it okay? Or is it because in the case of samplers, they were done by girls and so it's okay that a girl would make a mistake but not a woman to make a mistake? It's just some food for thought. I'd be interested to hear what you think about that. Why is it charming if it's old, but not if it's current? Is it because our tools are better? I don't know. It doesn't matter that I have a rotary cutter and a ruler and a really nice sewing machine. I still can't always have square blocks in my quilts. And I still turn things the wrong way. Okay, anyway, that's enough of that. But that's my observation of the month, I guess. Okay, so whips and new starts. So I was doing what I was calling Stitch Whatever I Want-ia last month in May. And I had various projects pulled that I could start, but I only started 2, and then right at the beginning of June, I started a 3rd one. And the reason for that was just, I felt like I was satisfied with the number of projects I had going, so I didn't start anymore. And that was kind of the point. I was just gonna do what I wanted and not put pressure on myself that I had to start any number or finish any number. I think I'm missing a project here from my pile. Yes, please hold. Okay, now we're good. So let's start with the things that I started for my What I Want-ia. First thing I started is Wicked by Barbara Anna. This has been on my wish to start list for quite a while. Love it. And it was really enjoyable to stitch, I have to say. So last time I was talking about it and I was saying how I was debating, should I use my Snow Day fabric, because I felt like maybe the color of the fabric wouldn't go with my Halloween decor, being kind of a bluish green gray color. And I tried other things and I'm like, no, I'm just fixated on it has to be on Snow Day, so I should just stop fighting it. Maybe I have to start a new color area in my decorations, but here it is. And so I decided I was gonna do the Since and then 1980, because I thought that was cool, but then I was just kind of happy with how it looked here, and I decided to stop. So this is stitched on 40 count Snow Day, and I did use the DMC, whatever it's called. What is it called? Variations? Does that sound right? Yeah. Okay, so I used the brown that was called for, which is just a regular DMC, and then the Variations, that is the key. Then for the black, instead of doing DMC 310, I used Classic Colorworks Black Coffee. It's one of my favorite blacks. It's kind of a bluish, grayish black. And then for the orange, which was supposed to be another DMC color variation, that just seemed too pink to me, especially for my fabric. I think you could probably be fine on other fabrics, but just it didn't go with this fabric color. So I changed it to, I don't remember. That's why I write it down sometimes. Sweet potato, Weeks Dye Works sweet potato. So that's that. Hopefully I'll finish it for this Halloween, or maybe I'll send it to someone else to finish for me. I loved it. It was really nice working on something with very few colors. It's very cute. I love the cats. It was just really enjoyable to stitch. So I really recommend this. This key is awesome. Yeah, very satisfactory. Better than satisfactory, but satisfying. Okay, so that was one, start and finish. And then the other start that I had in the month of May for What I Wantia, when I saw this released by Nan Lewis of Threadwork Primitives, it's called Patriotic Rose. She just released this recently. I was like, I need that immediately. And I will start it right away. And I did. I think Nan's a really good designer. Her designs are simple looking, but it's like deceptive. Like, it's not easy to do simple well. And she does. Like, it's actually hard to do that, and she does a great job with it. I like her designs a lot. She's a very good designer. And I stitched this on 40 count macchiato. I did change some colors, like the white is B5200, just to get a little more contrast on my fabric because it's so light. This is Weeks Dye Works Whiskey instead of, I think it was Oscar or something, olive. I don't know. It was kind of a green yellow and I wanted more brown yellow, so I went with Whiskey. And then I used the called for colors otherwise. And here you can see I did, well, I don't know if you can see. There you go, maybe. I did satin stitches inside the leaves rather than cross stitches. It is charted for cross stitches, but I just thought I would play around. Really like these, very, very pretty colors. This red's a little bit lighter than I would normally use maybe, but I do, especially in patriotic stuff, like kind of a faded look, even though I'm kind of a brighter person. So I thought about changing the red, and actually it looks brighter on screen than it really is in person. But I decided I was happy with it, and so I kept it. So one strand of floss, and I'm almost done. So just a little bit to go. Thought I might finish it Memorial Day, but I went mini golfing and ate pizza instead. Awesome. Okay, let's talk about other things that I worked on. Okay, so I get a lot of requests about my color choices for Winter Rose Manor. And I worked on this a little bit. Every time I pull this out, I think I'm farther along than I am because so many people are stitching it, and then I see their stitching and think, oh, it's me or something. I get confused. So if you're looking for my color changes, I posted a picture on my YouTube channel. But sometimes people don't see that if they're just watching on TV. Like, it would come up if you're looking at your phone or as like part of the videos, or you can go into the community section. But if you need to see it, I'll hold it up here and you can just look. So I changed conch to Meredith's pink, and can't read backwards. Gentle Art Mulberry I changed to Weeks Lancaster Red. Wood Rose I changed to Weeks Hibiscus. I changed Roasted Marshmallow from Gentle Art to Weeks Bashful. Classic Colorworks, instead of used brick, I did Baked Apple. And then for Cayenne, I switched it to Weeks Dye Works Crimson. Note that the pattern tells you that the conch, so what is Meredith's pink, would be 2 skeins, and that's for 36 count. So if you're stitching on something lower, you might need more. And the other thing that was supposed to have 2 skeins was the roasted marshmallow. So if you used Bashful, you would need 2 skeins of that. So I'll hold this up here in case you want it, or you can look at the actual picture on my in my feed. Okay, so hopefully that'll satisfy all the questions about what colors I'm using. I have not stitched super far with them, but I'm happy with how they look so far. So I don't know, someday this house will get done. You probably can't even tell that I did anything, but I did stitch. This is 40 count raw linen, and I'm using 1 strand. Looks great. Shows up nicely with your white. Similar, I think, in look to what you see on the cover, which is kind of what I was going for. I wanted something more towards blue. If I remember correctly, the colors were more kind of autumnal looking to me. And so I went more with a bluish hued pink-red scenario. Okay, so there's that. I worked on it just a little bit, not real long. Here is Summer Delivery by Plum Street. And I've kind of worked on this about as much as I feel like I want to for this year. I'm gonna do a little bit more so I can get like a page finish. There's a few things missing on this side of the design, so I need to put in like the little stems, I guess you'd call it, on the pinwheels. There's another star. I need to finish this star. There's another bit of back stitching I need to do here, and then I think I'm gonna fill in, I don't remember what's charted for in between the white here, but I think I might put the lighter, I used Aztec Red, and I might put that in there to lighten it up because I feel like it's a bit much. We'll see. But so once I do those things, I'm done, I think, for this year on this, and I'll just come back to it next year to do the rest. This is 40 count Sparrow. I changed a lot of the colors. Yeah, I don't know. It's a really nice design. I love it, but sometimes I'm not in the mood to work on it, and I feel like I've just gotten to a point where it's like, okay, I think, you know, I know I'm not getting this done this year. I'll just get it done sometime next year, maybe not in time to display. It's okay. Okay, next up is another Nan Lewis. That is Beggar's Fourth. I'm stitching this on 56 count Sparrow. And I just made some progress down here, working on Jewel. Didn't get too far. I meant to spend more time on it, and I did other things, so. Beautiful though, I'm loving it. I think I don't think I'll finish this before July 4th. I may not even quite finish it this year, but it's theoretically possible that I could. Changed all the colors except for like 1. Am I missing another project? Yes, several. Oh, let me get my project roll. One moment. Okay, so I've got this, who makes this? DMC makes this project roll. It's really nice, I like it. So I've been keeping some of my projects in here. If I take them to get framed too, I do that. Okay, so let's talk about this piece, which I started for the Blackbird Design Weekend sale from May. So I started this May 1st. It's the Summer Jubilee. And made some progress. This is actually a pretty quick stitch. I changed the wood rose. Mine is very brown orange. And well, I have a couple different dye lots of it. I looked at a bunch of people's online. Some people's looks more pink, some people it looks more orange. I decided to go with orange, but instead of using the wood rose that I have, I used Classic Colorworks glazed carrots, just so I could keep the wood rose for reference. But the glazed carrots was a good match, so I used that, and you can see it here. And yeah, it's looking really pretty. So I'll keep going on that. This is, oh, I didn't say, 32 count 18th century Blackbird by R&R. You do want to be careful about this fabric because if you get it wet, it will stain. I did test, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I tested this corner here to see, I just want to make sure because I'm aware that you need to be careful about, that they don't use any product to bond, as far as I know, to bond the fabric or the dye to the fabric permanently. And so that means that if you get it wet, you could have some spots. So it's not any criticism or anything. I'm just letting you know in case you don't know that. So you can see where I tested it out here in this corner and it looks brown. So I wanted to know just because my fabric was kind of wrinkly and I didn't know if I could maybe steam or slightly spritz it afterwards. And the answer is evidently no, not unless I want to pre-wash it and kind of get that color, which I didn't want to do. So anyway, just an FYI if you're new to their fabrics. Okay. Every fabric dyer is different. Some people use natural dyes. Some people use like fiber reactive dyes like I do. Some people wash out excess dye. Some people don't. So you just have to see like what the specific dyer does and act accordingly. Okay. I'm working on my birthday start from Garden Samplers by Prairie Schooler. I'm doing the Garden Gate Sampler, which is this one here. And made some progress on the gate area. So pretty. I'm really liking how it's looking as I get more done. It wasn't looking like much at first, but now it's like really starting to come together. I'm leaving open spaces where the mauve that I was feeling iffy about goes, although I think someone told me it would be fine, and it probably is, but I just was like, well, I'll just get more done and I'll see what I think. 40 count Cafe au Lait by Zweigart. So far called for DMC. And so that's those, and then for can't remember what it's called. Is it called Cross Stitch Camp? I think it's called Cross Stitch Camp that Sherry is doing from Colorado Cross Stitcher. She does like a knitting version. I think it's called Camp Loopy, and she decided to do a cross stitch version for stitchers. It's been fun seeing people work on their projects. So the first month, June, was supposed to be something, if I remember correctly, that someone else had influenced you to start or in some way had influenced you to work on. So I decided to start this one. This is called It's Halloween by Foxwood Crossings. And I had seen Cindy C stitch this on Instagram on an orange and I loved it. And it is, you know, you can see here it's stitched on an orange. I stitched it on my fabric, stitched it on 40 count soft pumpkin. So I started this June 1st. Worked on it June 1st and 2nd. And the called for floss, I think, is Onyx by Weeks. And I didn't happen to have any available. So I just went to my old favorite Black Coffee again. I was debating because I also really like Blackbird, I think it is, by Classic Colorworks. Or else, yeah, I think it's Blackbird, which is more of a brown. It's kind of like, if you wanted a substitute for 3371, I would use that. It's like a brown black, and then this is like a gray black. So that one would have given me more contrast, but I kind of like the faded look, slightly faded look of this. 40 count soft pumpkin, dyed by me. I only dyed this color. It's more, this isn't even really accurate. It's a little bit more pink than this. And it probably doesn't matter where I put it. If I put something behind it, does that make a difference? Let's see. Closer. Anyway, it's a little bit pinker than you can tell. I only dye this in the fall, like 1 or 2 months in the fall, because people don't seem to want to think about how, other than, well, I think about Halloween like all the time, but most people don't really want to think about Halloween except at that time. So it's a limited edition kind of color in that I do continually dye it, but only like once or twice a year. Loving that. So it's just super cute. I mean, I really like the font. Really fun. So I'm looking forward to stitching that but I only stitched on it 2 days, and then I'm back to model stitching, so I'm keeping busy with that. So those are all the whips, starts, finishes that I've had. And so let's talk about other things. I said I was hitting the retail therapy pretty hard. So let me tell you a little bit about that. I don't even know where to start. Let me just show you some stuff I bought. None of this is actually cross-stitch related. So if you're not interested in that, then it's just an FYI. It's just various things that are like crafty and cool that I love. So let me start. I'll work like small to big. And this is not, well, it's kind of haul. So it's haul in the sense that I bought a pattern. This popped up on my Instagram feed at like 6 a.m. I don't know, was it Friday or something? Anyway, it was like 6 a.m. and I was scrolling through Instagram and I was like, OMG. Because I love tiny knits. If you're new here, I love tiny knits. I've knitted a lot of tiny things. So this was a new pattern. It's called Soft as Snow Mitts. I don't know. I might have to scroll that for you across the bottom somewhere, flash it. I'll link it in the description below the video. And so someone had knit it. It wasn't her pattern. I found the person whose pattern it was. I bought it immediately. And, you know, between seeing the thing and casting on, probably no more than 20 minutes lapsed. I mean, I didn't even get coffee before I bought this. That's like how bad it was that I needed this mitten pattern. Cast on. Love it. It took me about 3 hours to knit. It would have taken me a little bit less time, except that I was trying to figure out, there was a mistake in the pattern, the first row of the pattern, and I was looking at it and I was like, that seems odd. Like half of the mitten had the purl bumps and then half of the chart didn't have the purl bumps. So I want to say, not a beginner pattern in terms of, like, she doesn't tell you that you're knitting this in the round or that you're using double pointed needles or anything. So it's not hard, but like if you haven't really knit much, you know, you have to refer to a chart. It's not that hard to read the chart, but you'd have to do that. So the purl bumps weren't there, and then like the center stitch was the wrong color. And I'm like, am I really knitting the one color and then changing to one other color and then back again for one stitch? And that didn't make sense to me, and the lack of the purl bumps didn't make sense to me. So I kind of contemplated. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna do what makes sense to me. And about 2 hours later, after I'd already finished most of the mitten, she sent out a correction. She said that it just disappeared from her PDF, which I've had that happen, so I believe her. Like, I've had numbers disappear on my patterns as I save them. It's really frustrating when I'm designing and I'm writing up the pattern, and then like some of the DMC numbers just, yeah. Good times, Adobe, good times. Anyway, Malabrigo sock in natural and Ravelry red. My natural got munched on by probably a moth. So I kept finding little breaks in it. I thought maybe I could salvage part of this game, but it was just too many places. So I managed to eke out the mitten, and then I had to throw it away. So I've got a new skein on the way to me. And then I added a 2-stitch I-cord hanger. So cute, seriously. I'm gonna be making more. Aw. Okay, so that's one thing I did. So that was crafty. And then here's another thing that I did not make, but someone else made. I came across this somehow on Etsy, as one does. Okay, so notice what's happening. Kitty eyeing a yarn ball, and then, oops, marvelous. And then there's a little yarn ball inside. Isn't this just the cutest? So this is made by Woodland Factory on Etsy. She's in, I was thinking it was Ukraine. It's actually spelled with 3 O's on here, but it's only 2 O's on here. Oh, well, the shop has 3 O's, but her Instagram has 2. Well, whatever, it's Woodland or Woodland, however you want to say it. So I got a couple mugs. It took a while to get here, but I expected that. I read, you know, I mean, it's international shipping. Isn't that just the cutest though? So I got one for me and one for my friend who follows me on Instagram, so this isn't going to get posted on Instagram anytime soon, but she doesn't watch my videos, so it's safe. Another handmade thing that I got, which if you love Halloween, you will love. This is by Black Star Ceramics. These are called mini pumpkins. I follow someone, I don't remember who, on Instagram who had just bought these. This gentleman is in the UK. You can't like request a specific face. Maybe next time I order, I might say more cute specifically. I don't know. Because I do like cute Halloween more than like angry. And then I got these guys too because I had to. I mean, it's like I'm shipping from the UK. Let's just buy a lot. These are the ghost mini pumpkins. Now, he shows, the gentleman's name is Ian. He's super nice to work with. So on the website, it's like pretty much the UK. But then you can contact him for a quote for shipping international. And he was great to work with. He was just like, what do you want? I told him, he gave me a quote, and he shipped it. And I just PayPal sent him the money. One thing he shows, these aren't super stable for this, so I might like look for an alternative way to do this, but I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but if you put like, no, you're not gonna see it real well. If you put like a fake tea light underneath it and you don't have a ring light shining on you for a Flosstube video, then this lights up. But it's not super stable on this, so like I said, I'd like to find some other way, some other light that sits inside that could light it up. So that was that. And now for the biggest purchase of all. Okay. So back in 2008, I bought myself a really nice graduation present when I got my master's degree from Penn State. And I had been wanting, so when I moved here, I wanted to start quilting. I wanted to take quilting classes. I didn't really know, my mom knows how to sew, and we know how to read books. And she has a sewing machine, and I knew how to sew from learning from her. So I'd gotten some quilting books, and we'd tried as best as we could with what the internet had to offer back in 2003, which was not a lot. But from the internet and books, we managed to get me making a couple of okay quilts. When I moved here, and I couldn't take classes because I couldn't buy a machine, I couldn't afford to, and her machine just really wasn't portable. And there were no places in Kalamazoo that I knew of where I could just go and use a machine at the shop. I had to bring my own when I was living in Kalamazoo. So I couldn't take any classes there. But when I moved here, one of my goals as a grad student was to make some quilts and to learn how to quilt. So I bought a sewing machine my first year, which was a Viking, and it was okay. It was in the shop a lot. It had a lot of issues. And I got really into quilting. Blogging was big back then, and there were a lot more resources in 2006, I guess, than in 2003. It seems like there were anyway. And, you know, all the quilters were talking about featherweight sewing machines and how great they were to sew on. So I really wanted one. And towards the end of graduate school, when I really just wanted to be done, I would spend time in my office looking on eBay and trying to bid on sewing machines. And I finally won an auction. It took a while. I got outbid all the time. I got smarter and I just got lucky. So the machine that I got, when I got it, I didn't know much about it. It seemed pretty dirty, like it had maybe been somewhere, like an attic or a barn or something. And it was a 1938 featherweight. And I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't know if I could take it anywhere, but there were places online that had parts and some helpful sites at the time that explained how to do things. So I got like a featherweight and iBook and learned how to do different maintenance things on it as best I could. There were some issues, like this, there was a spring that was all bent that I had to replace. It took me a while to figure that out. The biggest issue is that eventually the motor started smoking because someone prior to me had tried to put oil in it, apparently. So one of my last adventures with it, after replacing the spring, one of my last adventures with it was taking it to my mom's house. My mom's very handy. And the two of us, like, watching a YouTube video and then trying to take the motor apart and clean it. It was a great machine. It could sew through anything. I have a Bernina, and sometimes I would do bags on the Bernina, and the Bernina would skip stitches. It couldn't handle it. Even though it was a great machine, it could not handle those bags, and the featherweight would just plow through. So it was a great machine, but I was frustrated at times with issues I didn't know how to fix or not remembering how to thread it. Sometimes wanting to have the features it had, but on a bigger machine so that I could do some free motion quilting. So I ended up getting a Juki, and that's basically like a giant featherweight, a big, heavy giant. So it's like the giant sister to a featherweight. Straight stitch only, big throat space, so it was good for free motion quilting. It was very nice stitches. Once I got I then had two machines. I had the Bernina, which was great, and then I had the Juki. And I was like, you do not need this featherweight. You need to get rid of it. You cannot have 3 sewing machines. Where would you put it? When would you use it? So I told myself I had to sell it, and tried selling it on Craigslist. No one bought it. And then I advertised it at my local quilt shop, and someone who'd been a student of mine when I taught quilting classes decided that she would like to buy it. And not immediately, but not long after, I just started missing the machine and wishing I hadn't sold it. I knew it was completely silly because I had 2 perfectly good sewing machines and a floor loom. What did I need another sewing machine for? And it was just so beautiful, and I really missed it because it was so beautiful, and I like old things and well made. So I just kept telling myself it didn't matter and that I didn't need it. And I'm pretty good at letting things go. If I'm to the point where I'm willing to let it go, then I'm usually fine after I let it go. But that was the one thing that I can honestly say that I have regretted repeatedly over years letting go. And I've gone back and looked on eBay, and every time I was in an antique shop and I saw a featherweight, I would have to look at it, which I've seen several. And finally, recently, like, so many people were getting featherweights, and I was like, man, I still miss it. I really want one. And so I looked back on eBay and I was like, maybe it's time to get one. So I did some more reading up on featherweights, and there's like just an amazing amount of resources now compared to even 5 years ago or more, like when I first got it. So the featherweight shop has been an amazing resource. I bought a machine on eBay. I'll buy it now. Show it to you. So this is Virginia, so named because the manual has the name Virginia Lee written in it. This is 1947 featherweight. And so I bought it on eBay from someone who sells jewelry. I knew that meant that they didn't know much of anything probably about the sewing machine, and that I would probably be doing some work. I really wanted one that had the Egyptian scroll work on the faceplate. That's what I'd had before, and I wanted it again. So I had to look for one that had that, and then that looked like it was in good condition, as best as I could tell from the pictures. So I felt like theirs was a reasonable price and in good condition. I asked for a couple additional photos. They sent them right away. They packaged it carefully. And it got here really quickly because they were in New York and I'm in Pennsylvania. So it didn't take long, and they shipped it like FedEx. So when it got here, I was like so excited. I opened the box immediately, and it did need some maintenance. So I was at least prepared for that because I've been watching those featherweight shop videos, and I ordered a bunch of stuff like a tune-up kit and various other things. And I had to place, I've placed, I don't know, 3 orders with them now, but they're great and they're fast. I really recommend them, and I recommend their videos for maintenance and just learning about your machine. So things that I had to do, there was old lubricant on the gears, and you could see it kind of gummed up. So I had to put kerosene on that and clean it up with a toothbrush. And the person who had it, presumably last, whoever that was, had put the lubricant for the gears in some of the oil holes and oil areas, so I had to clean that off. I put new feet on the bed of the machine that comes with that tune-up kit. I put a new drip pan pad. A lot of times, if your machine comes and it kind of smells old, there's a pad that catches the old oil and lubricant if it falls down, and it's there's like a black tray under your machine that you just unscrew, and then there's a pad on top of it that catches that. So anyway, you can easily replace that. So that was like one of the first things that I did, and I had done that on my other machine too. I put a new LED light in it, which is much better. The light that you would have originally with it gets quite hot, and you have to be careful about that. I did not put an LED on my last one because by the time I knew about LEDs, I was about to sell it, but I definitely wanted it for this one. Let's see, what else did I do? I oiled it. I put new lube on all of the gears that needed to be done. I put lube in the motor. There's a really cool bobbin tension meter that they send you in your tune-up kit, which is not something I'd had before. I'd had to just do that yo-yo test to try to get the bobbin case tension correct. And what I found is I couldn't get the tension to be what they said it should be. I tried and I tried. And then someone said sometimes there's a little bit of debris or something in your bobbin case, the holder, and that can be causing the tension to be off. So you need to adjust, you need to take the screws off of your case. Maybe I'll just show you. There's screws right there. You need to take these off. So I could adjust this one, which is the one that adjusts the spring. I could not get the other one off. Took forever. I finally, like through sheer determination and a good screwdriver, I got it off. And sure enough, there was this tiny little piece of thread in there, up hidden, like in the kind of top area here underneath. You couldn't see it, and I pulled it out with like a seam ripper. And anyway, that fixed it. So this tension was all off because of a little tiny piece of thread that you wouldn't have been able to see, didn't know was there unless you took it apart. So I did that, cleaned that out, and then I adjusted the top tension. I don't feel like the top tension is quite right still, and I can't quite figure out where it is. So sometimes I've sewn on it, I put a couple blocks together to test it out, and I wanted to try some new blocks. And sometimes the tension will be fine, and then moments later it will not be fine, and I don't know why. So I am still figuring that out, but it's mostly fine most of the time. One thing that's different for me this time is that I don't remember having problems with my spool bouncing around, but they said that the way that Orifil and like Mettler spools are wound this crossways makes it bounce. So they recommend this thread post, which does help, and it helps with the tension. So I did get that, but I feel like there's something wrong with my spool of thread where I'm noticing it twisting up sometimes as it's coming off here. And so I'm wondering if that's part of my tension problem. And I've never had that happen with Orifil, but I might get a new spool. But I'm using that. A little bit of trouble winding the bobbin, but it seems to be getting better. I think I maybe needed to oil the bobbin winder area a little bit more. So we'll see the next time I wind a bobbin if that fixes it. What else? I've adjusted I didn't even know that there was a foot pressure adjustment on this machine. I mean, I know that they exist on machines, but I didn't know Featherweight had them. So I've adjusted that because going over some seams, my seam was shifting. So what I've been wanting to try a cake stand block. There's a quilt called Topsy Turvy Quilt from a designer in Australia that I've been wanting to try for years. And I ordered the pattern. It hasn't shipped. I assume the people are in lockdown, so I don't know when I'll get it. But I just wanted to support the designer. I already kind of knew how to make it. There are tutorials, but I wanted to support her, so I bought it. And whatever gets here, gets here. But this is the cake stand block that I made. I'll link it in case you're interested in this block. I didn't make it exactly as directed in terms of her cutting. I'm using Bonnie Hunter's, I think it's called Fast to Cut tool. It's like a triangle. And then you cut the strip to you add the you take the finished size of your half square triangle, add 1/2 inch. but then you line it up with the finished size on the ruler and you cut it. Anyway, you're laying like it's a fast to cut method. Pretty accurate, although I was still figuring out my 1/4 inch seam allowance on this one, so not so accurate on this one for me in terms of my sewing and piecing. So this is like the smallest block version I tested out first. I don't think I'd want to make a quilt of these unless it was a wall hang because I would lose stamina. And then I did another one with fewer colors and I did the next size up block, and I could see making maybe a lap quilt out of this. So that's what I did yesterday, and I was just testing out my seam allowance and testing out my stitches on the machine and seeing how they worked. So I had fun. Also, in other news, if you've been here since like video number 2, which was a long time ago, I used to have a quilt in the background called Halo. I put all the blocks together in Halo this month, well, June, July, May. God. I swear I'm doing better than I was when I was teaching. In May, I put all the blocks together, decided that I do have to add that border after all that I swore I wasn't going to add. So now I'm in the process of cutting out the blocks for the border, and it's going to take me a while. So worst case scenario is Halo gets done next year. Best case scenario is Halo gets done this year. And that's just how I'm looking at it. But I'm not going to let it stop me from starting another quilt if I want to and piecing it entirely on the featherweight for fun. So I'm enjoying the machine. I did get a new foot controller. I noticed on the last one, this foot controller is different, but the one I had only has like this little tiny button basically for your foot to push, and I had a hard time controlling the speed. Even with the new foot controller, I always on my sewing machines use that like lever that lets you like bunny turtle it, you know, like on a lawnmower. And I usually like turn it down a little bit because I have trouble like controlling my foot pedal power. So I still have that issue a little bit on the featherweight, and I, don't have that little override thing, but I found that the kind of generic foot controller that's just like a standard one you'd use now is a little bit easier for me to control my speed. So I knew to buy that for this. So, that's what I've been up to. I've been trying to relax more. I'm taking weekends off completely to relax, and I'm trying to give myself time to do things I enjoy, and I do enjoy the cross stitch, but I'm trying to let myself do my other fiber arts pursuits as well. I think it's good for me, and it's what my boyfriend likes to call creative cross training. So thanks for hanging out with me today. This was a real long one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you probably in about a month. So I hope you get lots of stitching in and that you have a great June, and I hope it's relaxing for you too. Take care.